up, people? So it's the Gamer back with another episode of The Greatest Opinion. And I wanted to talk more about why we haven't seen the full potential of Zoro or Sanji since the time skip. Now, what brought this thought on for me was I got a chance to see the One Piece Stampede film this past week in theaters during its limited run. And while it was a great film, it just put on more of like this consistent theme that's been happening since the time skip started, where out of the monster trio, right, the big three of One Piece, which is Luffy, Zoro, and Sanji, we see Luffy doing more and more of the heavy lifting. Now, granted, seeing how the series starts off with Luffy, and Luffy is clearly the strongest Straw Hat pirate, yes, it still does make sense for him to fight the big bad, right? So like in any arc, if a villain has henchmen, right, it's pretty standard for a Luffy to fight the big bad, Zoro to fight the second strongest, and Sanji to fight the third, while the rest of the Straw Hats kind of team up or fight whoever kind of falls underneath that pecking order, if you could say. And like I said, one of the things that's been more and more common is that, again, we're seeing a lot more focus on Luffy, right? We've seen Luffy show off Gear 4, we've seen Luffy become better and better with Haki and being able to pull off these different techniques, and we haven't really seen the same attention and focus put on Zoro and Sanji. I mean, you could say the same thing for the other Straw Hat pirates, but again, like right now we're just talking about the big three, right? The big three of the Straw Hat squad. And the movie just kind of reinforced that notion, right? Where it's like, you get this idea that yes, Zoro and Sanji are definitely far stronger than they used to be before the 2 years of training. But you haven't really seen them be put in a situation where they had to give it their all, where it was like a do or die situation for them. With Sanji, there was a little bit of a case made for that. Like he did struggle against Virgo, where you couldn't really tell if Virgo was stronger than him or if he was just kind of surprised at how strong Virgo was. And their fight gets interrupted before there's a conclusion. Then he also ends up fighting Doflamingo for a very brief period, but he was kind of serving more as a distraction in that fight and not really trying to defeat Doflamingo necessarily. Plus, Doflamingo was the big bad of that arc, so it was fair to say that had it gone on, Doflamingo probably would have defeated Sanji, right? Even in the Whole Cake Island arc, Sanji didn't really fight. He also did a little bit more of like a keep away scenario with Luffy when it came to the Big Mom pirates trying to kill them, right? He didn't have like a standoff or standout moment against a really, really powerful opponent. For Zoro, it's even worse because we haven't even really seen Zoro break a sweat. I mean, Zoro has been bodying people since the time skip started. He defeated Hody, right? He defeated Hody before Hody even became a threat in Hody's natural environment. Granted, he ended up losing because, of plot armor, we'll say, but he defeated the big bad by himself, off screen, technically. And since then, it's just been like a recurring theme where like Zoro has been disadvantaged, but not nearly as much as Sanji, and with not nearly as much effort either. He defeats Monet with a single swing that doesn't even damage her. Like, the fair is what scares her into almost losing. Doesn't even touch her, they don't even fight. Then when it came to Pika was more of a he just can't reach him scenario. It wasn't a thing where it's like, there wasn't a moment where Pika really felt like a threat for Zoro in particular. It just more felt like Pika has such a unique ability that Zoro just couldn't get to him. But as soon as Zoro was able to get to him, he defeats Pika like this. Like it's almost like cake for him in that scenario. And so far, Wano kind of seems to be the same thing. The closest we've ever seen Zoro when it comes to having to try would be his little skirmishes with Fujitora. And even with Fujitora, it was another thing where it's like the fight wasn't going to have a conclusion. That was the fight where we learned how Fujitora's powers worked. Of course, we're not going to see an admiral show off his powers for the first time and then just be defeated. One Piece isn't written like that. So I don't know if it was hinting for something later on where Zoro's going to have like this do or die duel with Fujitora. But even then, we didn't really see Zoro have to try. And I keep wondering why. One Piece has always done a pretty good job, at least pre-time skip, of having each character be put in a situation that fits their strengths and weaknesses. But with the time skip, I'm just like, yeah, we've seen Luffy do all these things, right? But yeah, we haven't seen the same thing with Zoro or Sanji. We haven't even seen a new technique for Sanji in, I don't know how long. We know that he knows Haki. We know that there's abilities that he's been able to use with Haki, and it seems to be connected to like his internal soul fire abilities, but we haven't really seen Sanji do anything. And then with Zoro, we also know that he obviously knows Haki as well. But again, it's just more like we've seen that Zoro can now adapt to essentially any situation, and he has the sword skills to be able to slice down what it essentially is a mountaintop, which was Pika. You know, and it's just like, okay, at what point are we going to see them fight? Like, at what point are we going to get something on the levels of the Alabasta arc, or the CP9 fights, or even the fight against Oars? You know, like, you want to see, like, these characters kind of go all out in these do or die situations. That's what always makes One Piece so cool in these climatic situations, where it's like, yo, these characters are about to pull out all the stops, a new technique, or something that just makes it just like, whoa, this was epic, you know? And I just haven't seen that for them. And I can't help but wonder why. Like, I hope this is not becoming a thing where Luffy is now becoming the Goku of the series, and nobody else can really do anything that matters unless Luffy's involved. You know, I would love to see the Monster Trio kind of show out again, as well as the other Straw Hat Pirates ever being real. I mean, I haven't seen Chopper do anything since the Fishman Island arc, to be honest. You know, but I think those two in particular, because they're like Luffy's right-hand men when it comes to protecting the rest of the crew, you kind of expect more. You want to see more. But what about you guys? What do you think? Do you feel like the way the story is being handled is fine, or do you feel like how I feel, where it's like I wish they would get just a little bit more love, both in the manga and the anime? Let me know what you think.